a seat.
Let's call the meeting to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Here.
Graziano?
Here.
Nattari?
Here.
Robel?
Here.
Strumelob? Present. Mayor Melham.
Here. Sunshine notice?
Notice of this meeting has been given to the press and the public in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law.
Pledge allegiance.
Did somebody?
Aye.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to our combined conference and regular meeting. It's a new iteration of our work session and council meeting. So we have a couple items on the agenda. I know they're numbered 1 through 5, but we're going to take them in no special order. I know that we're still waiting on somebody here. We're waiting on some council people for you, some council people for you. So therefore, I will jump ahead to number 5 and do the one that is really about me. We have a councilwoman, who's a councilwoman arriving. Let the record reflect, Councilman Depena, 5 minutes late, but she's here. The record has reflected that.
That is Spanish for
Actually, so we don't need to do that. We were going to jump into number 5, that didn't require most people, so instead we're going to actually take it right from the top then as of now. So now we are going to go back to number 1. So I'm going to receive Mr. Chris Bernardo, Commercial District Services, LLC. So I know we have about 5 different items, actually we have 7. Of the 7 items that we're going to discuss tonight, we have probably about 4 different presentations. Because we're limited by time somewhat, we're going to ask everybody doing a presentation to basically keep it to about 10 minutes. Maybe leave a minute or 2 at the end for some questions from the council members. That said, I will let you know that we are live streaming the meeting. So just please, you're not mic'd up unfortunately, so please just project, speak loudly, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Bernardo. I'm the president of Commercial District Services. We manage special improvement districts. In your packages tonight, you have a package which basically serves as a mini SID study, if you will. We went ahead and took the liberty of going through and taking a close look at the district and providing you with a map and also a property listing and estimates on how much this particular area could draw in assessment funding for the types of special improvements that are really helpful to business owners. I don't know if you're all familiar with the special improvement districts, but they are designated areas within cities and towns where the property owners agree to assess themselves a special amount, and those monies go toward special improvements, and it can range from supplemental sanitation and maintenance, beautification programs like landscaping. One of the ideas that we had for Washington Ave was possibly doing hanging planters from the great decorative poles that we have out there, which is a nice public investment. It can also include public safety. That's something that we do a lot in Newark and Jersey City, where we work quite a bit, where we partner with either the county police or the local police department to provide supplemental security. The benefit to that is it's focused on the store owners themselves, and we get to manage the police in that way and make sure that we're focusing on the types of quality of life issues that are really important to them. Also in your package tonight, we went ahead and provided a sample budget, which I think is usually very, very important, especially at this stage in the game when you may be, just doing a general overview of a district and figure out what could be possible. So in the package we have this budget sample, and it goes through some general big picture line items, and it gives you an example of what these types of things cost. I pulled this directly from the districts where we work. We work in about 21 business improvement districts throughout North Jersey. if you see that the total budget line item here is $250,000, if you go through your package, I don't want to go too deep into the weeds here, we have limited time, but if you go through, especially the end of your package where we have the property listing, we give a couple of different scenarios of what can be drawn. We feel, based on our experience and what we've seen, that the $250,000 number is a really good number for you guys. It gives you the ability to do quite a number of things, and it's not quite such a burden on the stakeholders in terms of an extra tax. This budget talks about cleaning and maintenance, landscaping, capital improvements, which we think are really, really important. It's the nuts and bolts of what you want to see in a district. That can include outdoor planters, new trash cans. It can even include sign and facade improvements. That's something that is a high value item for current stakeholders, the ability to improve their properties, and certainly for business owners, they're always looking for better ways to promote their business. So rather than having them feel like the only way that they can do that is through flag banners on the street, which we're not big fans of, we prefer to give them the opportunity to actually have nice, classy signage on the building. It's much better for the business, and it's also much better for us in terms of the district itself. So you have this in your package here tonight. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about business improvement districts in general, or some of the districts where we work. Just so you know, locally, we operate in 5 out of the 6 business districts in New York, including Mount Prospect Avenue, which is right around the block from you guys here. We're also working with the Bloomfield Avenue, the new Bloomfield Avenue and Lower Broadway bid. We manage both of those districts, and we provide outdoor services to them. We also work a great bit in Jersey City. I serve as the director of the Journal Square Special Improvement District, and we also provide outdoor services to several districts in Jersey City as well.
It's it's an interesting concept. You're basically a privatized SID.
Yes.
Basically, you manage, instead of the municipal government or municipal employees managing a special improvement district, your private sector company does that.
Sure. I mean, the way we look at it is we provide a really low-cost way to manage your SID. One of the biggest challenges that smaller towns and smaller SIDs have all over the country is having professional management, and then also being able to deliver the types of improvements that the stakeholders find value in. What we do is we provide a really low-cost way to manage it, so that we can take as much of that assessment funding and apply it right to the street, really give the stakeholders what they're looking for.
So I'm always hesitant when we're asking our taxpayers to pay more. I, for one, think they pay enough. And if we can't manage it on our side in order to provide these services, I'm totally for concepts of privatizing things, but not necessarily charging more money to our businesses to do that. Who actually pays the assessments? Is it the property owner or the business itself?
So, yeah, let's just start with the acronym SID, Special Improvement District. The reason why we call it special is because it's being done specifically for the district itself within that region. It's something that can't really be achieved through the current tax base and the regular property taxes that we pay. It's a special improvement just for that designated area. The property owners pay that assessment amount. Now, the property owner, has the ability to pass that cost on to its tenants. They can share that responsibility. The business owner, per se, doesn't have direct responsibility for funding the SID. It's really about the property owner. And that kind of gets back to what our focus is, the nuts and bolts. We're really trying to make sure that the services that get provided are of benefit to the stakeholders. We like to think that over time, we get to preserve property values. In fact, maybe we get to increase property values. We're really trying to protect the investment that a lot of people have made in their properties. The business owners get the benefit as well, but they work hand in hand. When you have a successful business community, it tends to raise your property values, and because you're attracting more residents to the area, you're more competitive to surrounding towns. Certainly Nutley has a great downtown area. They've had a really good, area for a number of years. There's nothing to say that Belleville can't also have a great Washington Ave, a great commercial corridor. You've got a lot of assets already. So we see this really as an extension or really a strengthening of the municipality's current services.
The argument is the revenue or the money raised stays within that district.
Yeah.
It gets spent and utilized right in that district.
Yeah.
It's not spread out and dispersed throughout the entire township. So, and I know I'm familiar with special improvement districts. I've seen them in other municipalities. I've seen them work well.
Yeah.
It's something that we have to weigh here, whether or not we want to ask our property owners to contribute even more. That's a question for us, obviously, and that's a discussion for us. We're quickly running out of time. Does anybody have any quick questions that?
I do.
Top. Okay, we'll start. Right here.
Does it matter if that particular street's owned by the state?
The state would be treated the same way that the property would be treated under any other circumstance. It would be, a state property would be an exempt property.
The whole street is basically a state highway, right?
Washington Avenue.
State highway.
It's, it wouldn't preclude you from taxing the property owners. What it might do is it might strengthen your ask at the state level for funding for things like streetscape improvements, all different types of amenities. So it's actually it's not a problem. It's probably in some ways it could be a benefit.
Councilman Burke?
Yeah, I would like to see a lot of as I travel up Bloomfield Avenue a lot, going into all the other towns, you see the beautiful flowers hanging, baskets, and I just love it. And then we come into Belleville and it's nothing. So I'm like 100% in favor of that.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with Verona, right?
Yes, I am.
Verona's got beautiful hanging baskets on
No
their.
matter where you go, you see them hanging. Bloomfield's
Yeah.
hanging them, the whole bit.
But they
That's
also
what we
invested
need.
quite a bit into doing that every year, including a full-time person that comes through to water
Water
them.
then, yeah, of
Yes.
course.
So those are the types of benefits that you can achieve through a special improvement district.
Anybody else? We kind of do have to wrap up, but anybody else have anything pressing? Tom? No? Okay, we have the information. This is obviously something that we need some more discussion on, probably to have you back here if we were going to take another step to really flesh it out and all that out. But it was a good entry point, I think.
Yes.
And it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Mayor, thank you so much for the opportunity, and council, we really appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, I've attached my business card to the document that you have. I would love to have a further conversation with you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're going to move right along to number 2 here on our list, which is receiving Anthony Razik from Belleville Soccer Association, BSA. I'm not sure if you were here before, Ant, but I did mention we are live streaming. You're not, unfortunately, mic'd up. We do have microphones coming. It's just approved in the last budget. I know you. I know you can speak loud. Just need you to speak loud and project a little bit.
I don't know what you meant by that, but I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm from the Belleville Soccer Association. I've been part of that organization since I was a kid. We've always had the field for the spring season for the kids to play at. We're just asking that we waive the fees for these children.
Can you, and just don't assume that everybody's up to date.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So just start at the beginning on what the request is.
We're requesting the use of the field starting in February, weather permitting.
High school varsity field.
Varsity, the
Yeah, tell us what
turf
field.
field up at the high school, the municipal field. Starting in February, weather permitting, obviously if there's snow on it, we cannot use it, I completely understand that. But our season starts in March, so we would like to get the kids out there as soon as possible. We do have some high school teams that we're trying to help out as well. We're requesting the field Monday through Friday from 5 to 9:30 for practices. And then on Saturdays and Sundays from 9 to 8 p.m. depending on the game scheduling, because we are not in control of actually scheduling the games. So we need that access to go. And like I said, we're just asking, we have 135 residents of Belleville that actually play for us. We're trying to get more. I'm trying to get more involved with the high school teams, trying to bring the high school kids back to the program to make the high school program stronger. That's all I really have. I mean,
So I'm a former member of VSA, by the way, 1979. I was 5 years old. We were talking earlier, we played at Claremont Field at number 8 school.
which is what we use in the spring, in the fall time is what we use through the high
So
school.
this has been an annual, you've had this request?
Every year since I can remember.
So what happened, I'm seeing,
Can I just interject something? Yeah,
Sure.
we had this discussion, I believe, the last time the soccer association came before the previous mayor and council, and some of you may recall, and I believe the policy changes that we were not issuing permits at this level, that everything should go through the recreation department, all right, so that they could schedule and get ample opportunity, because this is, well, you do a wonderful job, and it's a great program, and we're very familiar with it. You do kind of monopolize the field here from February to June, Monday to Friday, 5 to 9:30, Saturdays and Sundays, 9 to 8, so it's kind of a little dicey. That's why the previous mayor and council made the decision to have all the scheduling done through the recreation department.
yeah, and I'm kind of new here, so I didn't necessarily know that. When I received the letter, I put it on for discussion here. The manager did inform me of that, I think on Friday, but I know that some council members just had some questions, kind of along the lines of what the manager just said. So what would happen, like I see here, your request is Saturdays and Sundays from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 11 hours every Saturday and Sunday from February to June. So what happens if we needed the field?
It's all yours. We would have to just tell our league that we're not available to play that day. So if they had a movie night or whatever the case may be, we just move all our games to away games that day, so that the field is
So
accessible.
do we have a schedule, and again, I'm probably stepping on the rec department's toes, because this is probably a question that they would be asking. Do you have a schedule that we can,
We do not have a schedule yet because
That's why it's
we have
brought.
not. We just applied for all our teams to be in the league. So until that, until later on, probably towards the end of February, we would not actually have a game schedule until the end of February. Because they don't, until they're all accepted, all the teams are accepted, we wouldn't know who's playing and not playing. Which we also worked with the rec department last year and the years before. Whenever they had something going on, we moved games around. And there is some flexibility once the schedule comes out. That
well, we
can-
kind of have to ask you for use of our field. That's the weird part. I think
Yeah,
some people
Yeah, that's not.
have.
I understand that.
Right, but anyway, Councilman,
just had a question. So you're asking that we waive the fee to use the field. Do you charge the students, the participants?
We are a nonprofit. We do not make any money on the children. It is just strictly for their uniforms and for the league fees and the referee fees, because we pay a lot of money to the referees to referee these kids' games, which is ridiculous, but.
yeah, my nieces play club. I mean, there's a fee to play. But
Yes, but we are a
making
nonprofit. We do not make any money on the children whatsoever.
I have a question, Tim.
Are you done, Councilman?
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I definitely agree, and this is a reason why I asked, because I understand it's the Belleville the Soccer Association, but it isn't rec, you know, it kind of gives the impression that it is through a recreation department. So just for the benefit of everyone as me that are just understanding the different leagues, and I understand that you're asking, you know, to waive the fee, it is a non-for-profit, but at the same time, my hesitation is exactly that, you know, this is something that maybe our recreation department would be better suited to make that decision, because like, as the mayor mentioned, you know, us having to ask for permission for some, I don't think the issue would be to waive the fee, the issue would be, it is a lot of hours that we're asking, and then do we not use those fields, you know, that might be a question for our rec department.
Which is, I think, why the policy was probably changed, to put it in the hands of, so people like us aren't making decisions on this.
Exactly.
And like I said,
Is
we
this
work.
only for our schools? Because
No, it's not our schools.
No.
It's a private club, it's a private team, basically. Club soccer is a,
And they're all from different towns?
they have a large percentage, 72% are
Because I saw
from,
how much problems had a couple of years ago.
yeah, it's
No,
a
what
it's a club.
let the
The majority of our children are all from Belleville.
Yeah.
We do not have, Belleville is such a small town, obviously.
What do you mean majority? How many would you say?
72%.
72%,
They have
as of right now.
187 players, 135 are Belleville resident. but this isn't a rec department, this is a private club, which is very common. Like I said, my
Which
niece is
we're
fine.
open to taking rec kids, that anybody who wanted to better themselves. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the rec department and what they do, but we have more qualified coaches that we pay sometimes, that we pay to have your kid trained. So we're trying to better the whole program.
It's a
Work-
higher
work-
skill.
It's a higher skill
High
level.
skill set.
It absolutely is, I mean, it
It's
is.
like a traveling team.
Absolutely. We travel to other towns and we beat other towns, and my daughter is a high school player here in town, and she actually probably is gonna go to Colwell and do well. Yes, that is
My
definitely.
niece was just there today.
Colwell?
Man, sure.
Hey,
Hey, Tom.
so, like, I consider this like Little League, how we ran Little League in the past, right? So it is a nonprofit, but the question I have is what we did, going back the past 12 years, we actually took the weight off the town as far as cutting the grass, cleaning the grounds, and doing that kind of stuff. We never, you know, they used to cut the lawn and do that, but we took it in our own hands because that's what got the parents involved and things of that nature. And I'm not saying it's coming from soccer, I'm just saying in general, when I walk the field and wherever it is up at the stadium, it's not a bad thing, it's just conversation, that when it's done, do the parents get involved in cleaning up and trying to keep that field to where we, you know, with our maintenance crew that goes in, is there anything that we can do, and I'm not saying it's coming from there, is there any type of, I don't know, thing we could put together to
Well,
have the parents have a stake in it besides only,
we can try to come up with something, but as of the coaches and the players are all responsible for all their water bottles, and we make sure that it's all cleaned up ourselves into the proper garbage cans that are there from the municipal. We just don't have no way to get rid of the garbage, but they pick that up. But we do, I have noticed for the last few years since I've been going there and coaching my teams, it is better that we're there as a presence because you don't have other kids out there trashing the stadium. We've been able to keep certain players and certain things off the field and certain nonsense off the field because we are there taking care of it, because we care just as much about that turf field as anybody else does. So maintaining it and keeping it organized and keeping somebody there on it on a constant basis, I think is a great thing. Because like I said, we do clean up the goals are ours, we pay for some of the goals are ours that we own on that field. The new nets we put on there every other year, we work with the high school and with the rec department on supplying what needs to be done. So we are willing to work with whoever.
good.
I guess we'll let it take its normal
Course.
course of action, which is go directly.
Yeah, we'll forward this to the recreation department, and based upon availability, you know, we can have a discussion with them, but let's not be misled here. Having nonprofit status, and I'm sure you're all aware of that, only means that at the end of the year, you do not show a profit. All right, and what, you have 135 kids, what's your annualized budget about?
Oh, I wouldn't know that offhand right now. I mean, each team is probably a couple $1,000s to put into the league, and then each team.
No, how much do you collect?
Oh.
I have a good feel for what that was, but how much do you collect?
We only charge, it's $175 to play and $110 for your uniform, is what we charge the children. And that is low compared
So
to.
285, now any of
It's-
the officers
it's
of the
like
association,
three-
does anyone get paid, is
No.
anybody salaried, or?
No.
So everyone's volunteer?
Everybody is volunteer, coaches are volunteered. This was the first year that we actually have a paid trainer
Right.
that comes in and helps train the kids, but he comes once a week and it costs us $80 and that's about it. But everybody else is volunteer, all the coaches are volunteer, myself is a volunteer.
Good.
We're on a different subject.
Okay,
Sorry about that. All right, and thank you so
All
much.
right, thank you guys, thank you for your time.
I volunteered.
Yeah, right. So we're moving along. I don't believe there's a representative from F in credit here.
F is great.
Yeah. I think that might be a joke. So just wants me to keep saying it.
I just want to
No F in credit, huh?
We got no F in
No F in credit. Okay, so next up, we have our friends from R&M Rock and Rescues. So like I've told everybody else, come on, if you just come forward a little bit. We are live streaming. Unfortunately, you're not mic'd up. There is a microphone coming. That should avoid 10 comments I'm going to get later on tonight. Just please try and speak up and project it if you can.
It's not a problem.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Marty Wheat. I am one of the co-founders of R&M Rock and Rescue.
Are you the M?
I am the M.
Okay.
Ron Caputo is the R.
Okay.
We've been before the council before asking for help with our TNR program, which has been very successful. We've been working with Colleen. We have, in the few months that we've actually been doing this, since July, we have fixed 150 cats. We are, obviously that's not very many in the broader scheme of things. We've been sort of focusing our efforts on this part of town. I live over by Clara Moss. We need to be in a position to move to that part of town, and all of the rest of Belleville. When we came before, we happily took on the charge of developing a TNR program and asked to work with the council, which was terrific. Vinny's been wonderful. We also have mentioned that we are about to lose our housing. We don't know when, but the rug is being pulled out from under us. We are in no way asking to open a shelter in Belleville. Absolutely not. What we are hoping to do is establish a facility for a rescue sanctuary where every adoptable animal that goes through the door is adopted out. Those that may have diseases, they're simply unadoptable, can live out their life without having to be killed. So those are the two things that we are asking for help with. We are very happy to be taking on the charge of the TNR of the entire town of Belleville. It is so necessary. What we need is, if the council's willing, to help us develop a program where we get the director of People for Animals in Hillside to come and do a volunteer training so that people who are interested in helping us learn how to trap, learn how to get the animals to us. We arrange with Colleen to get the truck to come and do the neutering. We are doing this at $25 per cat, and we are asking people when they can afford to give us money. Anything we get goes right back into that program. We are not taking any money from the program for R&M Rock and Rescues.
So are you seeking additional funding for the $25 per cat, or?
We're seeking funding for the TNR program,
Okay.
because we have to lay out the cash.
I thought a few months ago we funded this.
Yeah, and
We
it
did.
was, and we're.
You're out of money.
It was $2,500.
Gotcha, and that's out.
That's done.
So how much more do you need
Uh,
for the next
How many
6
cats
months?
are there? I'm not sure.
I will tell you
Neuter them all.
about the volunteer program. When, with the part of town where I live, the neighbors have all done this already.
Yeah.
They've captured the cats.
Yes.
They've gotten them spayed, and we have a bunch of cats that are in my neighborhood that everybody knows. Everybody kind of takes care of them. They kill the mice. They do what they have to do, but they've all been.
And that's what we're doing. We had an ordinance passed where colony feeders, as long as they work with us to make sure that all of the animals in their colony are fixed, they don't get fined for being feeders. So we're doing that. It's just that we don't have, Robin and I are doing this out of our pockets.
So the money that the township allocated for the program is now depleted, you're telling me?
Completed
And what, it was $2,500?
$2,500.
And it was given when, do you remember?
July.
July, so it lasted 5 to 6 months?
5, 6 months.
Okay,
So
makes
We'll
sense.
see what we can do.
we're just, we want to make this a
That's the
bigger
easier
program.
lift. The
Yeah.
sanctuary is,
It's a different, I
It's
know.
That's the toughest.
I know.
although we have a 12-acre reservoir.
Yeah.
That's gonna be everything.
But, okay, so that's good. Did you give us any formal request for that, or how did that
We
work
haven't
last
yet.
time?
No,
Okay.
this is all
Okay.
very,
However you did it last June, I was.
Through the manager.
Yeah.
Through the manager, right? Okay.
Yeah,
And then we'll-
if you can, with your council's permission, if you can put together a sketch of a
An action
budget,
plan.
and what your needs
An
are,
action plan.
okay.
an action plan, there you
Action
go.
plan, wow.
We'll keep
A business plan for you.
Yeah, no business plan. No business plan. Can't really say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll, whatever protocol you did in
Okay.
June, get it to the managers, we'll take it under consideration. We're doing the 2019 budget now, actually. Now's the time. This seems reasonable. I don't, yeah, it seems reasonable.
Okay, thank you
Okay.
so much, appreciate it,
Thank
thanks
you.
Mr. Mayor, thank you the council.
Thank you. Last call for F credit.
No credit here.
Is it supposed to be Finn?
I think it's fit. I think you just said saying.
Yeah, because it's
But
capital
I
F.
like it.
It's a capital F.
You
That's
know
throwing
me.
me off.
You know me.
Okay, so we're gonna go to number 5, action plan update. So, what has been happening is, a few council people have had some conversations with the manager, of course, just on some broad stroke concepts that we were interested in September. I think in October, we mentioned them again. November's work session, we discussed them. By no means, the manager's job is to run the day-to-day operations of the town, and he has skilled directors at his disposal. So we were just looking for what we're going to do about this and how we're going to handle that. And so obviously, while the manager's very astute, he's not acutely aware of every single detail in this town. So we were asking him to task some of his directors with some action plans on how they're going to handle some specific things. The one action plan, I'm looking at my list from November 15th, November 5th, the one action plan was the North Reservoir. I think we've kind of established that we're moving kind of forward on that. The varsity baseball field was one of them. There was a concern that we might lose next season because of the drainage in center field. I know there's been an update, Mr. Tucci, if you want to give us just a quick...
Right, we will not lose next season. We have what they call a deep tine aeration, where they actually penetrate the soil so that the water can actually pass through and perk down as it needs to be. It should have been done, and it should be done on a regular basis, but this is the first step, so our plan is to do it before the really bad weather sets in, which they can still do, we still have some time. Now, do it again as soon as the weather breaks, probably the end of March, all right, have a crew come in, an outside crew, because we don't really have that type of expertise yet, cultivated within the Department of Public Works or Recreation, come in to take the lip away from the infield, all right, because just as a matter of course.
That was a drainage issue.
Right, the drainage issue will be resolved, the field issue will be addressed, and then at the end of the season, that will give us time to set everything up, to have someone come in and do a complete overhaul of the entire field.
To reset the mound and all that stuff.
Right.
And we could always discuss that at length further, but I just
Yes.
wanted to kind of hit the bullet point on what we were looking for, so that's good. I know our engineer's been up there himself. Again, I'm going off my list of what I read in public on November 5th. Status of the track, new field at the Municipal Stadium. I believe there was $1 million in Green Acres money that was already provided.
Correct.
That clearly didn't pay for the field. Interestingly, though, I saw that rendition during the campaign, that it was a done deal, and we were just waiting on the track to get installed. We applied for another $1 million in Green Acres money. We're optimistic we're going to come close to getting that, maybe $800,000. Still does not get us there. I know that the bond that was included in the 2018 budget included money for the track and for an additional turf field to complete that project.
That is...
Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is correct, but we ran into some issues relative to the down payment because the balance of the money necessary to complete that track, the total project's right around $5 million. All right, so we have the $1 million.
And that gets us a second turf field.
Right.
Which would be great for some soccer fans.
It'll be a regulation track, a second.
Now, is that a competitive track? Belleville, we've always had this discussion, is it a real track, a fake track, a competitive track?
I'm told that, I would defer that.
It's competitive.
Competitive doesn't
within the
necessarily mean-
schools,
Does
but
not
you
mean
can't
regulation.
run state
But not, can't run a state.
Right.
State, you need 8 lanes.
Correct.
So this included a track, a competitive track.
Yes.
Yes.
And a second, Belleville's very unique for a town our size and the population that we have. We literally have only one turf field. So that second turf field is vital to us.
And I also believe there were 2 baseball fields on that
Yes.
turf field.
That is correct. That'll be a multi-purpose field.
Multi-purpose
All right,
field.
and that's where
Baseball,
the
softball.
practice field is now, which is right next to our existing turf field.
And with the drainage, the way it's happened already, you can't practice on it after the rain because it floods.
Exactly. But with the turf, obviously, it makes it much more accessible.
Correct.
Okay, so that, we're kind of on track for that. The next item was keeping Washington Avenue clean. We've gotten a lot of success, a lot of compliments for keeping Washington, or starting to clean Washington Avenue, including just the psychological component of residents like seeing DPW guys walking the street and cleaning it. It just makes them feel like, wow, we care a little bit. So obviously, we don't want that to fall by the wayside. I didn't have it until an hour ago in your office, the action plan from DPW, which looks good on how they're going to plan to, because because we don't want to just do things because somebody up here is yelling at it. We kind of want to have a plan in place, and this was...
Right. And Mayor, as you and the council know, the whole purpose behind the action plans was to get people to begin to think on how we can become more proactive, all right? And we also will have money in the 18 capital budget, all right, for an automated machine that was sidewalk sweeper that can go up and down the avenues several times more than the fella pushing the cart like in the Rocky and Bullwinkle cartoons, for those of you who are old enough to remember those. I see not everyone shaking their heads, but that's okay. And that'll be included, so we'll be able to do an even better job and hit some of our other shopping areas.
So that was good. I just got handed the DPW action plan copy and the rec action plan. Both look really good. I mean, there's objectives, there's
Not
tasks,
bad, not
there's
bad.
success
We're not-
criteria,
It's a
there's
good start.
timetables, there's resources. This was good.
We're not there yet, but we are going to be holding, and we started with the three departments. We started with code, DPW, and recreation as a pilot. We're also going to be conducting some in-service programs to bring people up to the level where this becomes second nature to them. And then we're going to expand it to the rest of the departments.
So speaking of, Naomi Councilman Depena would often tell me, if you're going to say something negative, say something positive first. So I logged
And
in.
then
I
circle
logged in
back
2
to
compliments,
something.
by the way. The one
Is
thing
this the
that,
time where we get the negative?
yes, now it's a negative. 2 compliments, 1 negative, it's not bad. I would really like, I've been asking in my very limited capacity as mayor, that most people don't realize the limited capacity that we have here as elected officials. I've been poking around and asking some questions, and I would like to see if you can assist me in getting to the bottom of the next issue, which was the abandoned houses. That, again, last November, I ate Thanksgiving dinner, and it was 5-6 months before the election, the municipal election, and I saw a headline that said, Belleville to tackle town zombie properties. I said, wow, that's interesting, because I've been talking a lot about abandoned houses and the condition of them. So I read it, and I was very excited to see that the council voted to create a position of property maintenance inspector. His duties are going to include the marketing and selling of township property, logging them, and getting a status on where we are with the mall and all that. So I was very excited on July 1 to ask for that information. And really, it's just not there. I can't, again, I have a limited capacity, you have far more authority than I have. I don't even know which department I don't know what department was funded for this. It did say that the town should create a property maintenance inspector, part-time, I believe. But that department doesn't seem to have that position, and I kind of need you to, if you might.
It was actually a hybrid position. It was one of our attorneys who was working out of the legal department at the time, who was also going to work out of the building and code enforcement department to kind of bring this together. We obviously need to refine this much more and place it somewhere on a permanent basis. Being split like this, you don't have the accountability, you don't have the reporting procedures put in place. But as part of this budgeting process, we will in fact place it in a department where it will become effective, because this is something that we need to address. If I just might finish, and the fellow who was previously doing this work, all right, is no longer an employee of the township, so.
I just assumed that when I asked for the data, I thought I was going to get a catalog, a list of 100+ properties with the addresses, with a picture of the house maybe, the last time we communicated with them, is it privately owned, bank owned, what's the status of it, last time we communicated with them, where we are in potentially the acquisition process, or how much lien we put on it through. That didn't exist. So I didn't really need a detailed answer now, which I appreciate, but if you can task some of your, whatever department you think it's under, to let them know that I believe it's the will of the council that this is something that we want to get done.
This is obviously
It blights our neighborhoods. It's and I think we can be doing more about that. So yeah, that was the one thing. And again, I read it last year. It's over a year old now. News boxes we can skip for now. I do know that I did see in the construction code action plan that they are going to have late hours starting January, every
Yes.
other Wednesday. I'm assuming that's going to coincide with nighttime courts, and to be people in the building anyway, why not do that? I do think the director had some questions for you in there, but you can handle that on your own. Codification status, I kind of already know the answer to this. On our website right now, we don't codify our own ordinances, we don't log them and organize them. It's an outside company that does that. On our website and previous websites, you look at those ordinances and they're 2012. I'm sorry, 2002. So they're 16 years old. So one of the things that I wanted to do, we had said we were going to do that within the first 100 days, was to kind of go through them all and have a team of people look at them and see what's outdated, recommend changes. We can't do that yet. We don't really have them. I barely have a set, and it's organized in such a way that our town attorney barely has a set that's workable. So I did get an update from the clerk on that. Again, it's not her job. We hire an outside company to do that. We were told a couple weeks ago. It'll be a couple weeks away. Therefore, I'm assuming it's pretty close.
This week.
This week.
This week, we'll be live.
So we won't even know that. It'll just, you'll hit the link on the website. It'll go out to Coded Systems, and
She will call me the day it goes live, and I'll let
she
you
will,
know.
and we'll put it on the website.
And then subsequent to that, they'll be providing the actual
Yeah.
books that would.
That'll be everything through 2017.
Correct,
And then they'll start on a maintenance
17
product,
right.
process because that's just,
yes.
I mean, our town attorney was at a severe disadvantage trying to do research, that, and plus I think our residents have a right to know what our
Regulations are, yeah.
the other issue was the question about DPW, which I did see in the action plan, thank you. And then the last thing would be, I guess, something for you, if you want to, and during the budget process that we're in now, I know the council discussed it, some broad recommendations, not now, but eventually on some broad recommendation, maybe some shared
Shared
services.
services, correct.
Sure.
Just a real,
I'm done with mine.
okay, and this has to do with the action plans. I know that we basically set aside, and we're going to do an IT audit. Did we get any
Yes.
feedback as to?
December 31st.
December 31st, okay. Thank you.
So I'm going to speak on that topic during my mayor's report, actually. Okay, so that is my action plan. We're now moving on to Councilwoman Depena. And
Can you know? Just for the element of surprise. Thank you.
so we're discussing, for those of you who don't have an agenda in front of you, Councilwoman has put 2 items on the agenda, beautification committee and visual art classes.
Yes. So, actually, maybe we pass one tomorrow, so. Oh, here. Thank you. So when we were sworn in, I started driving around town and just kind of getting a feel of what things needed to change. We walked Washington Avenue, we all identified those control boxes, the yellow boxes, and I started researching in regards to what we do and how can we do this to beautify our township. And what you see in front of you are some ideas, beginning with the officially establishing a beautification committee whose job or duties would be to identify areas in need of beautification and take the steps, develop a plan, identify those areas, and then also carry on with those plans. I'm giving you a few pictures and just ideas of some of the general things that I see. We've identified 17 control boxes in corners and just everywhere, and whether they have an ad posted on it or whatever it is, but we have the opportunity to use this as a canvas, public art, and involve the members of our community in that art process as well. So I posted here, I put it here in the pictures: planters, control boxes, storm drains, empty storefronts. There is a company that I've been in contact with, and what they do is they put art in the windows of the storefronts that are closed, and at least in the meantime, while they get leased, we can look at beautiful art, and we don't have to look at whatever is happening in there. Of course, this all begins with establishing a committee, so that's the reason why I'm bringing it out, so that maybe the township attorney can advise us into what would be the best way, whether we do this through ordinance or resolution or what, but that would be the first step. So those are my thoughts. Any questions up to
No, just,
It's really on the same line as.
Yeah, you could-
Which is,
Baskets.
absolutely, I absolutely
it
agree.
all
I think
becomes
we,
part of it.
yes, and I think,
On the internet?
Yeah, these are pictures of, just ideas of things that I've seen in different, but, in terms of murals and all of it, there would be a more detailed plan. But the idea is, we have to first start with having an official committee
Yeah.
who identifies that. And then from there, we approve certain things and we decide on what's priority and where the funding comes for certain things. So that would be the first step. Yes, okay. And visual arts classes, a few meetings ago, I mentioned that one of our Belleville residents actually runs art classes in Nutley, so I was hoping to steal that person and bring her over to us.
Absolutely.
Well, the good news is we've been able to work something together. The manager and I have been discussing this along with our recreation department. I have children that are not necessarily involved in sports, and I do believe that we have to provide them opportunities to, through the recreation department, that don't necessarily involve sports, whether it is visual arts, performing arts. So I'm very happy to announce that we are moving forward with this program, God willing, Manager right in January. We will, and we're putting out our, the information will be a 6-week program. And we are just charging $30 for that 6-week program. It's for children 5 to 13. It would be hosted at the rec house. And the goal is to grow the program. We will begin with 15 students first, and then hopefully grow the classes. This artist, she has the ability to teach STEAM classes, makerspace. So we're hoping to be able to grow that, but begin first with just the art initiative. Okay? Painting, so this is visual arts, it's actual, so it's painting,
Painting,
yes. So we'll be doing, different kinds, when you have the younger ones, you're probably doing finger painting. And, but this, I am excited to be able to offer this through the rec house to give children and families the opportunity. I know Councilman Notari has been also spearheading the performing arts, so now we can offer something a bit more balanced to
It just
our
seems like,
residents.
besides recreation, physical activity, we never really had an opportunity for either drama, arts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to start dipping our toe into the water to see if there's interest to
Yes.
expand it next year.
Exactly. So we'll start with 15 students, and then we'll see from there. Okay?
Yeah, no, I would do it during our reports.
Yes.
Our reports. Report.
This
You want to do it now or do it during your report? Well, you can do it now, we got a few minutes.
Yeah, I have a picture here of Belmont and Alva, that it's just disgusting, and you can't take it anymore there, Mr. Mayor. It's just a mess.
I've been there.
I know. And nothing seems to be done.
That is
And I do want to live right
I
near
know.
there paying these taxes.
Well, I'm sure, I see the manager writing down. What we have to, what I've been understanding is, I receive, you live there, so it's a complaint from you and your neighbors. I receive the brunt of most complaints in this town. And what I've learned in the process is certainly flawed here. By no means of our own. We'll get a complaint just for the public that's here or those that are watching. You might call in a complaint for a property that's in a bad state of disrepair. We send that complaint to the construction code office. They immediately send that to an inspector. They might leave a note on the door, they might write a letter, but eventually, soon thereafter, there's a ticket issued. That ticket means there's a court date. That court date could be a month away. There's nothing we can do in the meantime. They come to court date comes, I should say, person does not show up. A lot of times, a second court date is issued. We wait another 30 days. Second time goes, person doesn't show up. A warrant is issued. From there, it's a tricky process, because if the property is a corporation, well, we can't go out and arrest the corporation. So then it has to go to our legal department to try and track down an owner. Then you have the question, and I've had this question with our police department, with our chief, is, how far do we take it? I see it both ways. He really wants us to come up with kind of a civil solution to this matter, because one, do we want to use police resources to go get Mr. Graziano for long weeds? Two, even worse, do we really want to send police officers into a house with potentially a confrontation and get somebody hurt, God forbid killed, over a warrant over long weeds. I see it both ways. Taking that step, we go that way, and we have. I've been yelling and screaming about 2 specific properties where they had warrants, and the police department went and picked them up. Well, guess what? We now have bail reform in New Jersey. They get picked up, they get brought in here, they get processed for 2 hours, they get let go. That's it. Nothing happens. So it's very frustrating for me because I received the brunt of these phone calls, and I don't have the ability to do what I just did and explain it to everybody, and frankly, people don't want to hear it, and I don't blame them. They shouldn't want to hear it. But that's the
problem.
that very well could be what's going on here. We're at a severe disadvantage because our hands are literally tied. We picked them up on bail, we picked them up on a warrant, they get processed, they get let go. They are not staying in jail. It's not happening. Not going down to the county, they're not staying overnight, they're not being inconvenienced really at all besides the pickup and the processing for 2 hours. And they get cut out with, guess what? Another court case. So we have warrants, we have tickets issued. The one that I'm still screaming about is the Great Lawn that we call. It's a hazard. Nobody wants to walk past it. The trees are overgrown. Normally, if it was a smaller property, we would clean and lean it, send our DPW guys out there. If it was a small, single-family house, we would do that. That property is just too massive. We just can't do that. So we're between a rock and a hard place with that one. And that's just one of them. But I just wanted to explain that because the general public sometimes doesn't know it, the process that it takes. But that very well might be one of those in that situation.
I just fear for the safety of the
Oh, somebody
children
could fall on
that are
that.
passing there, and it's
Yep.
it's horrible.
Mhm.
It's really horrible.
Absolutely. Well, all right, without further ado, we are done with the conference portion of the meeting. I believe now we are going to be, our agenda has been changing over the last 2 weeks, format-wise. We're now just not convening to go into executive session and not stating the reason why. We're passing a resolution to go into executive session, stating the reasons why we're going to do that. So at this point, I need someone to move a resolution to go into executive session.
Make a motion?
Second.
We have a motion made and second. Do we have to read that? I'm still getting used to it.
No, not have to read it.
Okay, so we have a motion made and second to pass the resolution to go into executive session. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Depena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Rovell? Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. At this point, to discuss litigation.
What litigation? You read them off the last one.
Yes, it's right in there. It's online on the website, Melham versus Esposito. Right on the website. Viewable for everybody to see. At this point, we're going to have to unfortunately.
Excuse me, point of order.
You're out of order, sir. You're out of order. You can't just yell
Are you
point of order.
recusing yourself from this discussion?
You're out of order. Thank
This
you.
is a lawsuit involving you against the township, and you're
You're out of order.
participating.
Thank you. At this point, unfortunately, we're going to have to just clear the room until the conversation is done. I'll go to number 5 on the agenda, so we need a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of November 5th, 2018. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Depena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Rovell?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Presentations. We have a presentation to the 2018
Cheryl-Ann.
Homecoming King.
Come right up. Come on up. Cheryl-Ann, Gabriel, come on up.
Do we have homecoming kings and queens here?
Yes, they are.
We do.
You got
We're
it?
in the presence of homecoming kings.
Let me get out of here.
How are you? Warren.
Steve?
Congratulations.
Congratulations. At this point, we're going to have Councilwoman Burke and Councilman Rovell present proclamations and read a resolution to our Belleville homecoming king and queen.
Steve's got it over here.
I'll remind council members to just speak up loudly, since you're not mic'd.
So, we wanted to congratulate you guys and honor you for the honor you brought back to Belleville. So, we passed a resolution to do that. Here's yours, Cheryl-Ann. Here's yours, Gabriel. Thank you for all you guys are doing, and God bless you in the future. Good luck with school and everything else. Give me a picture. So, Cheryl, where are you, Michael? So what did Cheryl-Ann used to say? Not that Steve Rovell. Every time I would call, Cheryl-Ann would make a comment about her.
Yeah, yes, sir.
God bless her, she looks great, and good luck in the future to both of you. wants, remember, you said you're up.
What did I do?
Whatever you want to say.
You're up.
Oh,
If you didn't do anything.
thought I did something wrong.
Description, I'll take
Okay.
a picture.
I would like to read, I guess, just one.
Okay.
Okay. Township of Belleville resolved, whereas the mayor and municipal council of Belleville wish to congratulate Belleville High School's 2018 Homecoming King and Queen. Homecoming is a tradition at Belleville High School to celebrate spirit, friendship, and expressions of loyalty to the Buccaneers, the students, faculty, staff, alumni, and greater community. Whereas this year, Belleville High School celebrated its annual tradition to welcome back alumni and former residents with the homecoming dance on October 25th. Whereas the homecoming court is comprised of students who represent the senior class during the week that celebrates Generation of Past. Whereas Gabriel, right?
Gabriel.
Whereas Gabriel De Palma and Cheryl Ann Nicoja were elected to represent Belleville High School as the 2018 Homecoming King and Queen. Now, therefore, be resolved that the mayor and council of Belleville extend its congratulations to the 2018 Belleville High School Homecoming King, Gabriel, and Homecoming Queen, Cheryl Ann. Wish you a lot of success, and this is this, and this is for you.
Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
You have anything you want to
You want to say
say?
anything?
Speech? Say a few words?
Say something, speech.
Thank you guys for everything, and I'm really happy to represent Belleville as homecoming queen.
Yeah, same here. Thank you, council, and thank you, town of Belleville, for this opportunity. You know, being able to represent my town in a positive way kind of means a lot to me because of the people and what we represent as a town. People I've met in this town really had a great impact on my life.
Great.
Both of you have applied to schools, right?
Yes.
Have either one of you decided where you're going, or
Right now, I'm just waiting on acceptance letters.
Okay.
Hoping for the best.
what about you, Charlotte?
Here, I'm almost done, so I'm just Springfield College.
So you're just waiting
Yeah.
to hear back. Well, God bless you, good luck with everything,
Thank
and
you.
make sure you finish your degrees.
So if there's any scholarship money out there,
We're pleased to accept it.
52,000 a year, boy, I gotta tell you.
Thank you, congratulations
Thanks.
again.
Congratulations again.
Just gonna give it a second in case they want to exit with their family. We'll just, we'll give it a minute. You can't go. Next on the agenda, we have the report of the mayor, report of the manager.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Limited to 5 minutes.
All right, since our last meeting, we had 12 township properties that were cleaned up. That consisted of removing leaves, brush, and debris in light of the upcoming winter weather, so it's not trapped under the snow. We replaced 3 street signs throughout the town. We had 3 trees removed and 2 stumps were actually ground out. We collected and removed 400 yards of leaves from the township. We patched Melham Courtland along with 20 other various locations. We put the resident at 115 Garden Avenue on notice relative to a water leak, and if it's not addressed, we will address it, and then put a lien on the property. We began getting prices for soil removal down at the DPW yard, which are relatively favorable, but we're still shopping, trying to get a better price. Sweeping of Washington Avenue will continue as long as the weather permits, and that's at least 30 degrees and rising at 8 o'clock in the morning. Codification of our ordinances will be online this week. I know it's a little redundant. I'm
Just
really
stealing
on
our
my
work
work day.
session.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to steal that one. And as of today, the streets that were paved were Smallwood, Bernice, Arthur and Passaic Avenue. The only casualty, if you will, that may have to wait till the spring is Van Houten. And I understand the councilman representing that was okay with that. And that's all I have. Is that true?
That's it?
That's it.
Sure. My first item for, I guess, moving along to the report of the mayor, my first item is kind of a question. I was involved last Sunday, town-wide-ish power outages. Do we, Mr. Tucci, do we have any ideas? I know it was not town-wide, but there were large sections of the town that were out.
There were large sections. We initially thought it was faulty transformers, and due to the weather changes, sometimes the transformers explode, but it wasn't. Our understanding is it was a situation at the relay station in Nutley that powers portions of Belleville.
Yes, it was pretty widespread.
So it's not, how are you again?
We were,
It's always not.
the origin was Nutley. We had a really good grasp on it. We were actually communicating on social media outlets. Our police were doing a great job with flares and down 21. And I was actually listening at the time just to try and give some updates to the town via social media. I was listening to my police radio at the time, and we were communicating that way. Okay, I didn't know exactly if we ever knew what that was. So, continue with my updates. We did recently, last week, myself and a bunch of other volunteers had the opportunity to walk the North Reservoir. I've been talking about that a little bit. Still in the very early stages of trying to do our own feasibility to see if it's something that we might be able to negotiate and acquire with NORC. NORC has given us permission to go forward a little bit, do our own due diligence, do our own investigations, look around, poke around. We've been doing that. We had the opportunity last night, I had the opportunity last night to once again speak to the mayor of Newark about this, and they're open to it. I mean, that's where they're at. They're open to it. Moving right along, speaking of Newark, and this is something that's pretty widespread. We have a IT survey being done here in this. I'm fond of saying that Belleville's a $64 million corporation, although we've gotten bigger. We're now a $65 million corporation, and we're lacking here. I've been here for 6 months, and our IT infrastructure is lacking. Our ability to work effectively and efficiently, in my opinion, is not up to par with where a private sector business of this magnitude would be. So that said, we do have an IT audit that's coming in. We had a third-party company come on out and audit all of our infrastructure. That audit will be completed December 31st. And why is that? We have to continually make upgrades to our infrastructure. Not just water lines, not just streets, but also IT infrastructure. I'm in that space. I'm in the government communication, government IT space. Here's an article that I just printed out. Iranian hackers hijacked Newark's computers and actually extorted a $30,000 ransom out of them, which is the only way you can do that. When this happens to you as a municipality or as a private sector business, you have two options. You lose all your data or you pay. It's that simple. So if you don't have the right backups in place, first of all, if you have the ability to have entry points into your network is the first problem. Once that entry point's there, if these hackers use malware, ransomware, your choices are simple. Lose all your data or pay. This one made the news. I can tell you that there are many, many municipalities in New Jersey alone that have already been paying. So that's something that we're, obviously, why I've been screaming, yelling about our IT infrastructure, it needs to be upgraded, and we're going to get some pretty good feedback based on that report. I would like to, for the 2019 budget, either ask the clerk or the manager or somebody to look into some kind of digital document management. I know the school district uses board docs. We continually get paper delivered to us. I didn't get my packet till Sunday, which was my fault because police make several attempts to deliver it by hand. When we're tying up police resources, we're printing things, we're reprinting things, we're retying up police resources. They're trying to track me down. They never got Councilman Depena today, so I took her packet. This is just outdated. I mean, we need a way to just do digital docs, and then we would actually be able to provide those documents on the website and have a public portion to be viewed. So that was something I would definitely want to try and look into for 2019. recent events, I don't know how many of you were there, but we had a really, really successful Christmas tree lighting and winter festival. It was packed. It was bone-chilling cold, really, really cold, and it was really, really packed. So as we've been trying to do, we've been trying to upgrade our existing events that we do, and then we're trying to create some new events. This was one of those opportunities to upgrade. We chose to make some investments into ice skating, and that was a really, really big hit. We had Mrs. Claus on site, which was a big hit. We had our police department donating their time and services for hot chocolate. We had our fire department roasting chestnuts. It was something that multiple people said to me that night, and then even on Facebook afterwards, that Belleville feels like a community again. Feels like we have gatherings that we allow the community to come together and celebrate. And that's something that I always thought was lacking, and something that we've been trying to get back to. Speaking of that, our Junior Bucks cheerleaders were in attendance. They just placed second, I think Councilwoman is going to discuss that maybe in her report. But they just placed at a competition that they had never placed that before. And then we invited them to participate with us. We also had our veterans organizations on board for the tree lighting. It happened to fall on December 7th, which is the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And we had our vets on stage with us for a quick prayer and a moment of silence for that. Speaking of our vets, I believe most of when we did our 5K run, and then we had a bigger involvement in the next day in the Veterans Day Parade, we made a commitment to our 4 veterans organizations that we were going to try and support them if we could. We were able to give them a monetary donation. It's currently in the process of POs and vouchers and invoices and signatures. I believe 2 are done. 2 might even be on tonight's bill list. And something that we also did too, we traditionally used to pay outside bands up to $750 to participate. Township being involved and using our resources to organize it, we got that price way down to about $250. And we never ever gave a donation to our Belleville High School marching band. So we paid outside bands and never paid Belleville's. So now we made a contribution to them, which was a little more than what we paid the outside bands. Speaking one last thing of the tree lighting, that also was a joint venture between the school district and the municipality, so I thank them for that. Lastly, we have some new stuff on the horizon, even though it's going to be December into January. I'm considering planning something for late January, which is going to be a State of the Township address, which would be something where I can give a pre-written speech and really give some facts and give some statistics, let the residents know where we were, what we've accomplished in the last 6 months, but more importantly, where we intend to go in the near future. It's just kind of a vision. It's something I think that's been lacking here. I'm excited to do that. We can't really do many new events in the winter months, but we took that opportunity, and again, it's still in the planning stages. We're going to have Belleville's first ever restaurant week. We have some really good restaurants in Belleville, so it's a combination of supporting local businesses, promoting Belleville. We do have some great restaurants here in Belleville, and so Restaurant Week will get them involved and get their participation. Something that I'd asked them actually. I wanted to do it in like October, November, December, and they said, you know what, push it off to January, February. It's a slow month for us. It's after the Christmas holidays. It's after the rush. So we're going to probably do that in January, February, and we are interested in having, again, we're going to probably work session this one out. I work in 20 cities, and I'm intimately familiar with what they do. A bunch of my clients are having open forums, basically town hall style meetings. Maybe not in here, it's going to be too small, but a town hall style meeting to talk about specific events or actions. A lot of my clients are having a conversation about marijuana, whether it's medical, whether it's recreational, what the residents feel about it, what the governing body feels about it, what the professionals feel about it, what the state feels about it. So we're actually exploring that possibility too in the next coming months. Maybe have a town hall meeting, have professionals representing both sides of that argument, including the state, public forum, people can stand up and speak and have their questions heard and maybe answered. So that's something that we're looking for in the near future. That's it. So we're going to begin quickly with our council committee reports. If you have any, we'll start with Deputy Mayor. Just speak into your microphone. Deputy Mayor.
On November 30th, I did go to Nutley to see their junior production of The Wizard of Oz. It was an amazing, excellent production. I was really surprised how good it was. Very, very well organized. They've got the community involved. A lot of people working backstage. There were 72 munchkins, so every kid is on stage. Even when the performance was over, the way this is organized so well, no kid was allowed to leave until a parent was there or a guardian to sign them out. So they really, really know what they're doing. I think Mauro told me they profited, and it could even be more since we spoke, $8,000 profit is what they made, and which is very good. So James Miles was the director there. He really knows, he's a good director. He really knows what he's doing. And he's going to be working with us. I know Jeannie Lombardi is trying to set up a meeting with us. Where's James Miles? Where is he? Is he in Oz or what? What's going on with him? He's back from us. He's not back from us. We do need to, really, because January is coming. We're going to have those classes in January as a feeder program. But again, excellent production. I was really quite surprised by how good it was for kids, everything, setting. So that's basically what, we're on board and we're ready to go.
Councilman Burke? Nothing? Councilman?
Yes, just an update on the hockey program that came in front of us last month. So through Mr. Tucci, I worked with Tommy Augusta, and the update on that is they were preparing all the flyers to bring to the rec house yesterday, and then the rec house would send the copies to all the schools, and they would post them on the website. So 50 of our kids, grades from 5 to 7, if they sign up, will be able to try out hockey for free. It's an 8-week program. It's a learning program. And again, it's free, and hopefully the children will sign up. And that's my update for hockey.
Councilwoman?
Thank you. As the mayor mentioned before, in November 17th, our cheerleaders, they participated at the cheerleading showcase, and they all placed. Our A squad came up in second place, B squad in second place as well, and C squad in fourth place. So we will be having them over at our next meeting in January 8th to officially congratulate them for what they have accomplished representing Belleville. This was the first time that they ever participated in this showcase. Also, a few meetings ago, I mentioned the need for expanding our recreation opportunities through the recreation department, not just to limit it to sports, but also to arts, and whether it is visual arts, performing arts. So we've been working with an artist who's been running the art program in Nutley for for a long time already, and happens to be a resident of Belleville. So we're able to bring her on board to work with our recreation department, the manager as well as Mr. Augusta. And I'm very happy to report that we will begin this visual arts program, so painting, in January. We are starting small with a program for 15 children. It will be hosted at the rec house, and it's for children ages 5 to 13. And I know, Mr. Manager, that we are in the process of just getting the flyer ready, and then that would be posted. So it will be a 6-week program, just $30. It's really a nominal fee just for sense of ownership, but it really is, we're just really bringing something back to the community. Also, Manager, when we spoke last, I just want to remind you, I had some requests in regards to the budget for the 2019 for our recreation department. So I am mostly interested in seeing what are seasonal hires, what does that specifically mean? And if, like I mentioned before, if we can get just a detailed description of what the job descriptions are and what their hourly rate is, so that we can revisit that, as well as a separate budget, which I think would be beneficial for our summer camp. We have different hire, we just revisiting that, so I am looking forward to revisiting that and being able to revamp what our summer camp already offers our families and understanding their needs. So thank you. Were you here?
Yes.
I just had a question.
John was talking.
Yes.
The art classes,
Yes.
you're starting in January, we're starting to, what night do you have?
So-
He's definitely Wednesday, that's the only night he could.
No, it's a Saturday. Oh, yes, thank you for bringing that up. It will be a Saturday program. So we are hoping to, Saturday mornings, the rec house is not being used for this. Okay? Did you hear that? Yes.
Councilman?
Yeah, just one real quick update. Myself and Councilwoman Depena have been meeting about doing a autism run, shooting for early April. We don't have too much details yet, but that's in the works, and that should be early April.
Through the chair to the manager, just real quick, I assume most of the leaves have come down, so I just want to make sure we're cleaning out the sewers, because when the snow comes, drainage. The other thing is, can we have Passaic Valley again take a look at Third River to make sure there's nothing blocking there? Because, inevitably, we get a back up there, it comes up onto Fairway. I'm just trying to preclude that from happening.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
One last item, I just found this, I didn't realize I had it with me. I don't know if you or the township attorneys working on a policy for the part-time sick leave? Part-timers and now sick leave, are you aware of this?
Yes, it's not a policy, it's the new law.
Right, but we need a policy to track it.
Right. We're working
As long as you guys
we're working on
amend our
it.
ordinance.
We also need to amend the ordinance, but we also need a policy to track it department-wide. I've discussed it.
So just so I'm clear, part-timers are now entitled to sick time based on the state law.
On state law, for every 4 hours they work, they're entitled to an hour of sick time.
Does the council consider part-time?
No.
Yeah. We're more than full-time, we're paid.
Communications.
I have none at this time, Mayor.
Paid part.
No communication?
Mayor, it's 30 hours an hour. For every 30 hours.
Yeah, I thought 4 cents.
This was a conversation I had with somebody else and I got confused with what you were saying. For every 30 hours.
The record reflects
it's
that
an
you were
hour.
correct.
I corrected myself. Thank you.
Ordinances for introduction?
Ordinance number 1 for introduction, and ordinance to amend revised general ordinances of the Township of Belleville, Chapter, Section 1.25, illegal turning on of water.
Move for introduction?
Second.
Motion made second, clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Ordinance number 2 for introduction, and ordinance to amend the revised general ordinances of the Township of Belleville, Chapter 8, Section 3, limiting the use of streets to certain class of vehicles.
Move for introduction?
Motion made second, clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
Ordinance number 3 for introduction, bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Belleville, the County of Essex, New Jersey, appropriating $1,847,351, therefore authorizing the issuance of bonds or notes of the Township to finance the cost thereof.
Move for introduction?
Motion made second, clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Yeah, I think so, right?
Motion to open public comment?
Second.
Motion made and second for clerk, to open the public comments. Clerk call roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelob Burke?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Frantantoni?
Phyllis Frantantoni, Mount Prospect Avenue. I wanted to know if the last time when the tax bills went out, there was supposed to be something in there about the illegal apartments, that there would be a fine, nothing was in there. I want to know why they weren't in the tax bill to alert people that if you have a legal apartment, that you will be fined.
Okay.
They didn't.
Can I respond?
Sure.
Yeah, as you know, we had that small piece of paper in there.
Yeah, that last
All right,
year.
and then we had asked, you had some suggestions at the time from some other jurisdiction, and I know that our finance department had asked you to come in, but you were unable to do that.
Yeah, I
So-
was,
Right, I know you were busy, people were cultured, I understand that. So we are working on another one, it will be included in the next one.
All right, thank
And
you.
we offer that invitation again, if you want to come and
I
give
will.
input.
Well, now I have more time, I can.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you. And School One property down there, did you contact the owner to clean it up? Because that's, I mean, a lot of the debris is dying because it's cold out, but there's still a lot in there. And I was wondering if they were ever contacted to clean up the property.
Well, I believe the code department did in fact put them on notice.
Okay. And there's something else that I wanted to say. Last meeting, Mr. Councilman Robel had said that even if Belleville passed an ordinance to not have any of the marijuana distributions in Belleville,
Right.
that
You're
the
talking
state
no
will
matter.
supersede over us and that it's null and void.
And that's what we were told at the League of Municipalities, by the way.
Well, I called Senator Rice's office, and you're wrong. Because...
Then they're wrong.
And,
We
well,
were
then
told
the-
by the League of
well, the
Municipalities.
municipality, the League of Municipality won't comment on it. But you're wrong because he said that anything, a law that the state passes, the town can override and pass their own ordinances, which you have done. Because you passed the 500 yard thing for the liquor license. Didn't you override the state with that?
You can't override state law. State supersedes us. Counsel?
So, Ms. Frantantoni, the end of your question, why don't you ask all your questions, then we'll
Go ahead.
get
All
some
right,
answers.
but you can override the state with your own ordinances. This is what I was told from Senator Rice's office, that you can put in ordinances so that your town doesn't have these places in there. So I wish you'd look into it before you say anything. Check it out and see if I'm wrong, because this is what I've been told from the senator.
I'm telling you,
Steve, I'm going to have, yeah, Ms.
So-
Frantantoni, you're done?
Mr. Frantantoni,
Yeah, I'm done.
what Councilman Ravel was talking about was, where the way the law stands right now, it's not been passed yet. So Senator Rice doesn't even know, because he's obviously, he's an avid opposition to it. The way the law is presently drafted and proposed, anything, what Councilman Ravel was saying was anything you pass today is going to be irrelevant. And the reason for that is the way the law is proposed as it stands today, and it's going to change. Nobody knows what it's going to look like when it's done. The law is going to provide that you have to either opt in or opt out. There's going to be specific criteria set forth for all of that. So what Councilman Ravel was saying is he wasn't saying that you can't override, meaning what you pass today is not going to override, no matter what you do, override what is ultimately passed by the state. The state is going to have a procedure, or the statute will have a procedure by which you can opt in and opt out, and what you can opt in for and what you can opt out for. And that's what he was stating the last time, which is what we all heard when we went down there. And if you read the proposed law, that's what it says. So it wasn't that you can't override state law. There are certain circumstances, as you said, where you can be more restrictive than the state. In this particular instance, nobody knows what that's going to look like when it happens, if it happens.
Thank you, Counsel.
Municipalities, Frank Marshall said you can opt out.
Ms. Frank, okay.
They're not there.
Sir in the back, just do me a favor, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Shane Murphy, 84 DeWitt, Belleville. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Ms. Depena, I just added this in real quick. I think it's awesome that you're doing the art program. That's pretty cool. I haven't heard about that. I'm here today to speak on the truth of legalization of cannabis. I heard a lot of my neighbors last week via the airwaves speak a lot of opinion. I am here today to state facts to the Mayor and Council. I have spoken in front of tens of thousands of people in California and Colorado on legalization. And I've never been more nervous than I am here today. I don't know why.
Relax. What I'm going to do is, Shane, I'm just going to give you a little bit of the parameters since you're kind of new here. Just make sure that you address your comments to us, to this dais here, and not really addressing anybody in the audience. And we do limit, unfortunately, public comment to 5 minutes.
Oh, I got it in 2. I worked all day to get it in 2.
Thank you.
So first I'd like to say that marijuana is not a gateway drug. That was a false narrative passed by a failed drug war, and I would challenge anyone to bring proof against my statement there. A couple facts about legalization of marijuana. We'll start with the fees. In 2014, Taxes, licenses, and fee revenue in Colorado was $67.5 million. In 2015, that doubled to $130.4 million. 2017, that's $250 million. That's not overall sales, that's tax revenue. A couple crime statistics. 10.1% decrease in all crimes since legalization in Colorado. 5.2% decrease in violent crimes since 2014. At least 18,000 new jobs have been created, and that was only up to mid-2016. Demand for commercial real estate has fallen, while home prices rose almost 9%. Estimated to save up to $40 million a year by 2020 from officers jailing, doing the paperwork, courts, and housing criminals. We have a bunch of bars in town. And bars, alcohol is known to create rowdy people. Worst case scenario, my wife said it last week on your Facebook, Mr. Melham, is you get a bunch of people smoking pot. The worst case scenario you're going to have is the fat house is not going to deliver at 2 a.m. Let's be real, guys. A lot of our fellow towns and cities are banning this. Belleville has the chance to be on the forefront of the legalization. It is 2018. It's time. Prohibition has not worked for decades. Why ban it? If you don't like it, guys, look the other way. 2%, we can charge 2% as a city tax on every marijuana product sold in Belleville. Imagine how much our taxes can drop. They're predicting it to be a $500 billion industry by 2025 in the state. 2% of that's a lot of money. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I'm not sure if you're aware, if you were here during my mayor's report, but the council is considering a town hall forum where we could be in a larger venue and have professionals on both sides, advocates on both sides speak and let the general public ask questions. So
Yes,
I don't know if you heard that, but we did. Sir?
There was a couple things I wanted to bring up, and one I brought up a couple months ago about Stevens Street crosswalk for the kids. There's no white lines painted yet, and George had made it aware that the sign in front of Kmart was knocked down years ago for the pedestrian sign and never replaced. And it's people don't even slow down there. You can't tell it's a crosswalk because the white lines you can't see. And I don't want an accident to happen with the kids. So the second time I brought that up. And then on a positive note, I want to say something about our police force. Because in front of my house, a friend stopped by, and he happened to lock his car keys in his car running. So along came two undercover detectives, and they were very polite about it, but they checked our paperwork. But they were very professional, and we were opening it with a rod. And so, of course, they were suspicious, but all the paperwork checked out. So they didn't throw us on the car or throw us on the ground. And I would say, I'm glad that happened, because if it was someone breaking in, they're on top of things. Okay, and then one more short comment about the end of Terry Street on the west end where the railroad tracks are. It's a mess up there. People dump construction bags, piles of rocks. I cleaned up some. I think the end of the street is town property. I wanted to know if the Public Works could clean that up. Okay. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, sir.
Hi, Robin Caputo, 37 New Street. I'm not sure what, I want to say something, I don't know how to go about getting something done. I live on the street where number 8 school is at the corner. I live before number 8 school on New Street, right off of Belleville Avenue. So the third New Street has these big, huge speed humps, they're big. They come flying down New Street, which is a school, is at the end, to not they don't wait at that light on Union Avenue, so they come down, they cut down New Street to, I guess not wait for the light or whatever, but they come fast. And in the morning, when I'm leaving for work, they are like flying, and sometimes there's a police officer down at the end. If they see the police officer, they always slow down. It's not always in the morning, it's all hours of the day and night. They come flying. I don't know, can I ask for speed bumps on my street, or ask you to look into it, or something?
Yeah, you would, if you came to one of our previous meetings, you'll know that 4 or 5 people a meeting, it seems, need or want speed bumps. Speeding is an epidemic in the town, there's no doubt about that. And we're looking at the 2019 budget to maybe do some temporary ones. Portable, permanent speed bumps are problematic because plows have trouble plowing. You then might be complaining that your street is not plowed right. Emergency vehicles, what most people very rarely think of. Emergency vehicles have to slow down for them as well, including ambulances. So we're trying to find, yes, we do details, yes, we do tickets. That kind of enforcement is a kind of a one-off type situation, but it's an epidemic throughout the town, and not just Belleville though. Just you know, when we did a detail in the summer. I don't know how many streets we did. The street that I live on, and also the police chief live on, was actually the fastest street in town. It was a cut-through street, and it's an epidemic. So it's something that we are considering, maybe temporary solutions, maybe radar.
We used to have the strips, but
The strips don't work. And not to be ironic, but we just did some strips. They're called rumble strips on Geralma Street. There's a petition being circulating now from the residents to tear them up. Because it's too noisy. So it's very difficult for us to win at this situation. But it is an epidemic that we're aware of.
Because of the school being at the end, I just feel like...
Absolutely. And I'm constantly talking to our chief about initiatives and asking him to ask his chief friends what they're doing, because it's an epidemic.
Okay.
But thank you. Mr. Frantantone?
Yes, I've got 4 matters I want to bring, but just at a later meeting, I'll tell you how potheads have affected one of my business and several of my rental properties. The beginning, you're talking about the special improvement district, and Councilman Burke, you said you're all in favor. You might have a short memory. Remember when you guys tried to do that a few years back? And we had a packed house here. You can't put any more burdens on the businesses in town. They're moving out left and right. Today's paper, I don't know if you're familiar with that Dairy Air ice cream parlor in Montclair. Right. Today there's a story about it. And the girls that have a business right next door, the ones who made the complaint, they're quoting the paper. He closed up his business and said it wasn't because of the complaints about his logo, it was because of the high expenses. She's closing her business the end of the month. It's in today's record because of the high expenses and taxes they're doing. So we don't need to sit. We don't need any more burdens. At the time, if you recall, that same week that you were contemplating here, Atlantic City canceled it, abandoned their bids. And I have at home that same file. It was not only that, a whole bunch of towns in North Jersey and Mid-Jersey were getting out of their bids. They were overtaxing, they were taxing, and the businesses can't afford it. The bottom line, you make a profit. Most businesses operate a profit of maybe 5, 10%, 20% the most. A lot of business, like I have no parking, so I had to lower my washing price to $1. I make about 34 cents on it. You can imagine how much I got. My tenant just Saturday. Her lease is up December 31st. What are you doing? I can't afford this anymore. Look, I just got a $400 tax increase. I'm not raising your rent. I want to keep good tenants and all that. So we can't put any more burdens on these people. So forget that SID thing. And they want $250,000. Give us $250,000 in tax relief. You'll see a nice avenue. In regards to the soccer, you got to help these soccer. The BSA, you played in it, you said. My son played in it. We, the parents, pay for every penny of it. So it's no burden to the township except letting them use the field. So please, go along with them. You do it through the rec department. And I know I was in charge of the rec department. We accommodated them as best we could. But it's the parents pay for every penny. We do a drive. We pay for the coaches, the umpires, the field, everything. So please do that. And again, another nice thing, I'm able to tell you, resolution number 5. Finally, after 30 years, I've been asking for it.
Nice thing.
You're gonna clean, community development block grant. You're gonna clean and reline some more, which hasn't been done in 30 years since the commission form of government got out. So thank you for that. And now, you went into private session, the 4 of you there, in regards to that case. You've got the owner of 170 Washington Avenue lost his case, and rightfully so. The previous council held him responsible for legal fees. You now have a court order. A judge ruled that you have to, the defendants have to refile their Rule 11 motion on or before December 21st, which is about a week and a half away. So in case maybe somebody lost it, in case later you say we misplaced it, I'm giving you another copy so you won't forget it. It's December 31st. Make sure you get that in court on time, and let's collect that money. I don't want to spread rumors, but if you're counting on support from a certain person for your council ward elections next year in exchange for absolving and paying this fee, you're killing the taxpayers. So do what's right for the town. And finally, there's several things you mentioned at the last meeting, Mayor, and you also put on your website. You got the picture of the reservoir in Cedar Grove, and the headline was that, Cedar Grove to buy part of the North Reservoir. But did you read the whole article? When you posted it, then I read the whole article. You know why they're buying it? For open space.
I read things.
Yeah, not housing. They're buying it for open space. And they got a lot more open space than we have. And also, you said the 5K race was the first time event. Vice President of Chamber of Commerce in the 70s, I was with a group, we had 3 or 4 5K races. We had the Sam Giafrida race in Belleville. After that, we had another race, which my wife's uncle, unfortunately, dropped dead on the field, and they were able to bring him back alive. So we've had plenty of 5K and 10K races in Belleville. This was not the first one. And finally, you said, we're up here donating our time. Anybody refuse to take their salary up there? So I think the word donate was on. We're paying you to do the job. Please.
Thank you.
Lower the taxes. That all your feel-good stuff that you're doing, all these races, the food truck, will mean nothing unless you can keep the people in town. Another report that came up on real estate, 6.7% of our homes in Belleville are vacant. Are you getting the message?
Thank you. You back, sir?
Yeah, Michael Nicosia, 708 Belleville. Just as a little kind of out on the back. I do home inspections and I deal with a lot of realtors. And right now, what I'm hearing for the first time, it's actually made me pretty excited, is that Belleville is a hot market. So I know he's saying there's a lot of vacant properties, but I'm telling you, it's a hot market. So, keep pushing forward, keep, changing, updating and so forth. But the other question I had is, where's the Route 7 project at? I know they're working their way up Route 7. Anybody know?
Yeah, I'll have an update for you. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we met with highway representatives probably in the summertime. They gave us their plan. We have to keep in mind that that's their road. So their plan, in my opinion, on first glance, wasn't ideal.
Was it a bike path?
There was a bike path in there, and they're just get ready for it. I might as well say it. They're pitching us on something called road dieting.
Yeah.
Road dieting goes from 4 lanes down to 3. It's not our road, so
Yeah,
don't,
but
you
I'm
can't
not
send me
against
complaints.
that, Mayor.
Wait, I'm gonna tell you. It's not our road, it's not our plan. That's the first thing to know. The second thing to know is I was not necessarily for that either. And then they showed me some evidence. They let me talk to a police chief that had a similar road that we did. Saw the case study. I'm not telling you I'm for it. I'm just telling you that now I see where they're going with it. In the end of the day, it's not our road. So they said to us, either we're going to take some feedback from Belleville, which we gave them at that meeting, take that feedback under consideration, come back with us with a plan, or if we choose not to participate, which, when I came in and I cleaned out my office, there was a plan sitting there that was 4 years old that hadn't been touched. So we immediately got them in and we started addressing it. At the end of the day, it's not our road. They said to us, we want a letter of cooperation or understanding from you guys, but if not, we can come in and start digging up your street. So they're looking for us to communicate with them. We did. We met with them. We showed them our concerns. We asked them some questions. We're currently at the stage where they're back at the drawing board, going to come back to us.
The road diet isn't really a bad thing. I mean, I was part of this, as you know, some years back, and obviously, talking about speeding, right? But for me, one thing that I was considering when they talked about the road diet was, obviously, the Washington Avenue needs to be revitalized, right? And it is starting to revitalize a little bit, right? But as it gets more and more, slowing down the traffic will actually bring a little bit more attention to the stores that are there instead of going past them. So,
Yeah, we're not going to go back and forth here, but
Yeah.
I respect your opinion. I would ask the general public to research it on their own. And the concept of the road diet is going from 4 lanes down to 3, but the center lane is a dedicated turning lane. So if you're in the left-hand lane now going down the street, car in front of you stops to make a left, you're jutting into the next lane, you avoid all that. So it's less traffic, less accidents. I'm certain there's going to be people here that are going to be against it.
Sure.
At the end of the day, it's not our road. We don't have much of a say in it. We're going to cooperate a little bit with them, but I do urge you to do your own research. Anybody else? All right.
Yeah, Mariel Drive, 95 Bell Street. Resolution 21, if you could tell me what property that is, that's number 1. Number 2, on Resolution 14, is this another company doing the appraisal, or they're doing extra work? That's number 2.
13? No. What resolution? 14.
14.
All right.
All right, and one more question, then you can give my answer. Resolution number 4. I've asked a number of people, and nobody could give me an answer on that. But if you recall, going back years ago, many of us do, meetings used to be at 7 o'clock. And I'm just wondering where the turn went, where they're starting now with 5 o'clock for work sessions, 6 o'clock meetings. So my question is, why are they going earlier and earlier? Because if you look at it, which we all know, a lot of people are still on the road at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock coming home. I mean, it's really, don't allow the general public to make some of these meetings sometimes. Those are my 3 questions.
Good, 3 questions. Which one do you want to see?
Mr. Drives, number 21 is the property, is the one on, in the backyards of Hilton Street. It was town passed an ordinance 2 months ago to put it out for bid to the contiguous properties.
What street was it on?
It's a pie shape, it's a triangular shaped property that kind of starts on Franklin Avenue and goes into the backyard properties along PSE&G lines into the backyard property on Hilton Street. And there was, notice was given to all the contiguous property owners, only one property owner bid, and it was the appraised amount. And that is to approve the sale to that individual.
Right.
Thank you, Councilor. Number 14, yes, that's the company that Belleville's always engaged to do all appraisals. Most municipalities use that same company. And number 4, yeah, we're just advertising now. This is, you have, and I know you've sat up here, Mario, so you have more experience. But last year, before July, this governing body never held really a public work session and never discussed anything. So we were promised that we were going to do public work sessions and air out certain topics. That's something that's a positive thing that we decided to do. We can't make a night longer, so we can only start earlier. We do not, and I've been adamant, and we've been working, the township attorney and I have been discussing this on the format of the agendas. I'm pretty adamant that I'm not in favor of these 12 noon meetings, these 1 o'clock in the afternoon meetings, and not 5 o'clock meetings where we're voting specifically for people who can't be here. I don't think anybody would ever accuse this governing body of not wanting the public to be involved. We are now, our website's up, our social media is up, we are now live streaming meetings, we're live streaming the work sessions, we're live streaming the council meetings, we then archive it on the town website the next day. So we can't make the day any later. So we start earlier just having open discussions that never really happened before. So this stuff would all be worked out some way and just appear on an agenda. At least now you get the opportunity to hear who we're talking to, what we're thinking. You have your opportunity to have input during this section right now, which is public comment. It's one big meeting. So I don't like the fact that we were going to say we were advertising the meeting to start at 5 o'clock, because really that was the work session. The business really doesn't start until about 6:30, and that hasn't changed. So now for next year, we're pushing it to 6 instead of 5. It is an hour later next year. So we're not starting at 5. The work sessions, when we have them, will be at 6. They will be live streamed. They will be archived. We do give a lot of notice, not just the notice that we have to give legally, but I put up a Facebook post every single meeting to remind people that there's a meeting, to make sure they watch the feed. So actually, next year, we're starting the meeting an hour later than 5. We're starting it at 6. But again, that's probably an hour's worth, although we're no longer going to time it next year. It's probably an hour's worth of discussion. Most of the time, we break like we did today for executive session, which the public is not a part of anyway, and we come back out about 6:30. So really, the time that we take action and the time that the general public would be here to ask us questions and comment is staying exactly the same. And you can see now it's 7:30, and we are doing public participation. So it's not like we're having this at 5 o'clock. And, you know, we are starting an hour later next year, which means an hour longer that not just the public, but we're also here too. So, okay, that's the answer. Ma'am in the back?
Wendy Harris, Quinton Street. We're having an issue with parking there, particularly at the restaurant Solar Domino. I'm sure everyone is familiar with at Cleveland Street. Quinton Street is a dead-end street. The Solar Domino, as I understand it, when they first came, they were designated, I'll say 30 spots or whatever. I believe that was on Washington Avenue. I don't think that ever really happened, or if it did, that's not the issue. The problem is, however, there's also a auto body shop on Cleveland Street that parks numerous cars that's very obviously in repair. They have numbers written on them, their fenders off or whatever. So when they're parking their cars on Cleveland Street, people coming to the restaurant, Cleveland Street is already eliminated. So which makes them park on Quinton Street. Now, Quinton Street, there's out of 10 houses, I think 3 of them have driveways, the rest of them don't. The houses on the left side, which I live on, we all have stairs, 25 stairs at least to get up. So now when we come home, if you're not there before 12 o'clock in the afternoon, well, you better not come home until after 12 o'clock at night or you're not going to have a space. I had a ticket this summer because I came home and after riding around for a good 15 minutes, no exaggeration, I had an issue and I needed to go in the house. So there was no one that I can have to come out to, you know, hold my car or drive it around or whatever. So I parked and I went in the house. Now, the problem that I have is the police were called, I was given a ticket. I don't have a problem with the ticket. The problem I have is you gave me a ticket and then you rang my bell. You rang my bell to tell me that you're giving me a ticket? You know, like, at least you could have rang my bell and said, well, can you move your car? You don't know what the problem was or whatever. When I paid the ticket, I believe I left a message here at the town hall for Councilman Cosarelli to give me a call. At that time, I was at the height of frustration to discuss this. Now here we are, it's December. The restaurant is the busiest time of the year. I need some kind of help. I have an elderly mother that lives next door. She was just out last night, as a matter of fact, and it wasn't even late. She came in at 5:30. There was no place for her to park. I couldn't even come out and move my car to give her, because then where was I going to park? We need some kind of help. I don't know what the resolve is, and I've called the police department on several occasions. I'm sure my name is at the top of the list up there. You know, we need some kind of help, please. I don't know what the resolve is, but some kind of help somewhere along the line. It's ridiculous. This can't go on. If there's an emergency, in fact, there was an emergency there this summer. I believe it was a patron at the restaurant. The ambulance couldn't even get through because the cars are stopped. They stopped right there in the middle of the street for the valet parking. It's just horrible. It's horrible.
Thank you. You came to the right spot. This would be the forum to do that after, you know, if you've called, you've reached out to us individually. We've made notes up here we'll make sure we communicate with the police department to try and do some extra enforcement in that area. Thank you. Yeah?
Mary Higgins, 148 Brighton Avenue. Speaking of public information, I'm very glad to hear that you're going to make things known on social media, but not everybody has Facebook, so it's good if you also put it on the Belleville website too, town website. I'd like to know, what was the total amount of funds raised for the public Veterans 5K run held 1 month ago on November 10th? Do you have the amount that was raised?
Is that, I'm going to just ask you to make all your comments and then we'll adjust.
Okay.
I don't want to eat into your time with my answer.
Well,
I'll give you
it
your
was
5 minutes.
public, it was very nice, 5K run for the veterans. Because you mentioned at the last council meeting that a $1,000 scholarship would be offered to veterans, somebody related to a veteran at Belleville High School, which is very nice. So with that comment, somebody up there should know the total amount of funds being raised. And 7 working days ago, I filed an Oprah requesting the amount. Usually when you have a fundraiser, everybody's happy and you announce the same day or at least a couple of days afterwards how much money was raised. It hasn't been done in this case. I haven't received any answer, or I haven't received anything back from the Oprah report. So all I'm asking is, you know, some people are interested in how much was raised, you know?
Are you done with your comments? I don't want to eat into your time with my answer, because once you're done commenting...
Yeah, I'm done.
that's-
Well,
okay. I made the same exact request for the 5K run. I don't have the answers yet. I'm assuming that's probably why you don't have your Oprah request yet. Understand that sometimes the same day, we don't know. We have online transactions, we have sponsorships, we have vouchers out, we have invoices out. Nothing's in yet. We did absolutely process donations for all 4 of our veterans organizations. 2 of them have checks in their hand already. Again, this has never been done before. So 2 have checks in their hand already, 2 have checks going out. I will correct you, we never gave a dollar amount for the scholarship. I certainly never said a $1,000 scholarship. I think that's something that we're waiting on to find out exactly what funds that we have in. There is going to be a scholarship given, and it was the first ever Veterans Day 5K run. That's it. Thank you.
so, excuse me.
This-
If you already issued 2 checks, then you should know the amount. This was a public event, therefore the fundraising should be made public. It shouldn't disappear into some black hole.
Thank
We, the public, and the veterans, all right, have a right to know how much was raised. You have to know right now how much was raised if you cut some checks. Are you trying to tell me that you don't know how much money was raised? I find this unbelievable. Is this how you handle fundraising?
Thank you. Anybody else? Sir?
Good evening, Michael Sheldon, 47 White Street. A few miscellaneous things. First of all, as an early Festivus gift to Mr. Tucci, at long last I have all of the receipts for the expenses I incurred over the last 4 years with the Township website, so Merry Christmas, Merry Festivus. All right. I was pleased to hear during the mayor's comments that the town is doing a long-needed IT assessment. You made mention of the fact that Newark recently got hit by some sort of ransomware. Through my sources, I was told that in the last few years, a similar thing happened here in Belleville, that a ransomware got into our system, but fortunately Mr. Hood had remote backups and was able to save the day. So based on my observations in making rounds in this building over the last 3 years, I've seen no shortage of computers running Windows 95 and Windows 98 still, so you know, we need a serious upgrade here if we're going to save ourselves from really serious catastrophe down the road. During the work session, the first speaker spoke about special improvement districts. As you may remember, I asked you through your Facebook site, I think Mr. Lopez was working with you. I had asked if you guys could look into the program in West Orange, the Shop West Orange program, as a viable option for Belleville, which would be a win-win for both taxpayers and our local businesses. I hope you're doing something in that regard. Maybe hope you can comment upon that. Also on your Facebook site, you mentioned last week you did a site visit of the reservoir property, and you mentioned that you did that with our engineers, but you did not mention who our engineers were. I'd like to know, is that Remington Burnick? All right. And then finally, there was going to be a very important planning board meeting this Thursday that was to begin the investigation to grant A-Nord status to 78102 Washington Avenue. I just found out that that part of the meeting has been postponed. Apparently it wasn't properly noticed. So there are a number of people in this audience who are regulars at the planning board meeting. My own personal computer had a meltdown yesterday, so I haven't been doing my regular emailing. But for those of you who are planning to attend this planning board meeting this Thursday, that A-Nord investigation will not be part of the agenda. The only thing on the planning board agenda this week is to approve the 2019 calendar. So that's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. So you answered that question about the planning board meeting. That's, I believe, going to happen in January.
Yes.
The company that did the West Orange buy shop program is on the agenda for today's work session. They were obviously a no-show. So we had them in today.
Thank you.
And yes, we passed the resolution in public awarding the contract to Birmingham Bar at the last meeting.
Even though Mr. Frantantoni pointed out that that would have been a pay-to-play violation.
Mr. Frantantoni is entitled to his facts, to his opinions, not necessarily the facts.
Is that
This
from
isn't a
you?
back-and-forth conversation, Michael. You asked who we hired. We hired them in public. Resolution was passed last meeting by us in public. And I answered your question. Thank you. Anybody else? Ma'am?
Danielle Vitale, 251 Hornblower Ave. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me my handicap spot. It's much needed. And my other issue is 608 Mill Street. My father-in-law lives there. And apparently there's only like 2 handicap spots. And I don't know if it's been brought up at other meetings, but he has COPD and he's been having to walk from the dumpster all the way to the front door. That there's times that we actually bring him home. This way he jumps in our car and then we bring him back to the front door. Is there anything we can do to get some more handicap spots there? I mean, I think there's 90 units and only 2 handicap spots.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. I think I may have spoke to your mom.
No?
No. I spoke, 608 Mill, is that the senior 55
Yes.
and older? Well, I spoke to somebody there, actually, we had a senior event that I attended at the
Okay.
senior center, and somebody asked me for a handicap spot. I
Oh.
thought maybe it was your family. So there are 2 spots there. We looked into it. I thought it was a little crazy that it's 60 or 70 units, and there's only 2
Yeah,
spots
and
there.
it's 55 and older. I mean,
Yeah,
they-
I honestly thought it was a little strange. My office checked into it with the construction official, with the planning board approvals. It's a ratio, so it's about 2 spots per unit. Yeah, it does come to 2 spots there for handicap. Unlike a street, so I had thought maybe how you see on a street, well, you could have a handicap spot for a specific unit or a specific house.
Right.
Because this is property, this is not a public street,
Right.
we can't necessarily get a spot there, but we are talking to the developer of the building to try and get a few more spots.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
it
asking
is a
for his
55
own personal
building.
spot, but
Right.
if there's some grass right
Yeah.
there, if they can do something to get some more,
We
for the
actually are
handicap.
talking to him. He's not obligated to do it, but I don't see him having a problem doing it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Motion to close public comment?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to close public comment. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
DePena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Resolutions? Anybody?
Make a motion to 12? Yeah, I want 22.
12 and 22?
Well, I don't have 22 on mine.
So you got the old, you got the old.
Anybody else?
12 and 22, correct?
Yes.
So we're going to make a motion to move the consent first?
So moved.
Motion made and second to, no, I didn't make the motion. Someone make the motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion made and second to
John,
move the consent
Steve.
agenda. John, Steve. For the consent agenda,
Yes.
Ms. Wong?
Yes.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Depena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg? Yes. Mayor Melham?
Yes. Resolution 12?
12, I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that we lost someone from the planning board. I know we mentioned it, I think, last meeting, but Gerard Walsh was a good man from the planning board, helped out at a lot of town events. He was very involved in the town almost his whole life, and he passed away about 2 weeks ago. So I just wanted to honor him with a small resolution.
I knew him a long time, and it was sad to hear that, and I believe the memorial ceremony is this coming Saturday.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to pass it, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Depena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes.
22.
Resolution 22.
That's me. So Alex Crevelone is going to be 100 years old. He was a World War II veteran. If you get a chance, read the resolution. He was wounded in Belgium in September of '44, and he received a Purple Heart. And I've known him all my life, so God bless him. Make motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Depena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. New business? Good, good.
Yes.
Mayor, this is, if I might, this is a late but necessary starter. This will allow the township to join the Union County Co-op so that we may purchase equipment for our IT upgrade.
Got it? Do we have a motion?
Motion for introduction.
It's a resident, right?
Reza? Or is it Rez?
Yes, yes.
Or just a motion?
So it's need a motion to move it.
Motion moved.
Motion made and
Second.
second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Cosarelli?
Yes.
Depena?
Yes.
Graziano?
Yes.
Nattari?
Yes.
Robel?
Yes.
Strumelberg?
Yes.
Mayor Melham?
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a Merry Christmas and
Merry
Happy New Year.
Christmas.